lost internet too. Oh, there we go. Perfect. So, okay, you're telling me about something really big there, and you mentioned maybe even a country or a name I wasn't familiar with in a story. You're gonna have to educate me on this, Scott. Go ahead.
Hi, Jackson. Good to see you again. Yeah, so super excited to be with you, and just grateful to be part of such an exciting podcast talking about the we hope we'll talk about is the future of food through the future of health through food. And so happy to dive into that more.
Of course. So again, though, I want to jump right back into that segment we were talking about right before we jumped on. So what was it that you were teaching me?
Yeah, so it's interesting. We are, Jackson, facing a far greater pandemic than COVID-19 ever was, but it's happening in slow motion, and it receives almost no attention given the magnitude and the scope of the problem. A lot of people don't realize that poor diets are actually the number one cause of mortality and morbidity in this world. 1 in 5 deaths globally as a result of diet in some way, and poor diets cost us 85% of our healthcare costs in this country, upwards of $1.1 trillion by some estimates. And all of that is being accelerated by globalization, by urbanization, by aging, and creating a crisis of epic proportions. The challenge is that the food and health ecosystems really live in different universes, and they have misaligned incentives. They're driven by legacy thinking and business models. And breaking out of that is incredibly hard to do, but it has to be done because both of them need each other. Consumers with bad diets just become costly patients, right? So we all own this problem. And the good news is that food as medicine, if you've heard of that term, the rise of food as medicine, bringing the health and food ecosystems together, actually works. So food as medicine interventions have been shown to reduce healthcare costs by upwards of 16% and generate a positive ROI, even when factoring in the cost of the food, such as a medically tailored meal program. Other programs like produce prescriptions reduce healthcare utilization, and both of them improve nutrition insecurity, obesity, BMI. And so my message is we need more forks and fewer scalpels and syringes in our future.
I agree. And I got to be very fortunate. I was on the campaign for Dr. Eric Berg back when he had 106,000 subscribers. He's at 12 million subscribers now worldwide. And he loved to always, I mean, his passion was driven around, we've got to be healthy in order to lose weight. Right. Not the vice versa. And taking care of health and eating healthy foods. I look at today's world, and what's strange to me, I'm guilty of this too, by the way, but as long as the can is shaped like a Coca-Cola, because we've been drinking this, we'll drink it. We don't look at the ingredients. We don't look at what's put in there. And Top Ramen, as long as it's sold at Walmart, right? So you're right. Like the diets, the things that we have access to, it doesn't matter if we're first world or third world, or developing world, whatever the proper terms are, we tend to gravitate towards what everybody else is doing without too much thought regarding that. So there's so much room for us to improve our health and our choices. And I'm not sure how exactly to inspire people to do that, but you know what is the emotional trigger to help people think differently? What have you found?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's that's a complex challenge, multifaceted challenge. I'll answer it in one way, but then I'd like to bring it back to the art of the possible and what we're trying to actually do with this vision that we have. So somebody once told me, and I think it was an astute point, that human beings are hyperbolic discounters. So we tend to discount and lower our expectations about the choices that we make today and the impact that they're going to have on our future, right? So that's part of the challenge is we make decisions every single day that have long-term significant consequences, and we're looking for immediacy of benefit and of value, right? And so the degree to which we can connect to people's aspirations, their mission, their goal, what it is they're trying to achieve in this world, and anchor to something that matters to them here, we can affect motivation. And then, of course, to actually impact change, we've got to actually change the foods that are in the system. So we like to say, if we want to change the food system, we have to change the foods that are in the system. And so we need to make healthy food more accessible, affordable, and desirable for people. And time poverty and complexity are major barriers. So this notion of convenience is actually a major barrier and inhibitor to real innovation. But we're actually we're looking to solve that both through the work that we're doing with Nourish Movement, which I'd love to double click on, and also the work at Clario.
Fantastic. That's you used a term there that I really, really liked. Time poverty.
Yeah.
I haven't heard people talk about that with that phrase, and I think these types of catchphrases are important for people to think to, because I can feel that. It's like, man, most of my friends and family, and people I interact with are just busy and they're flying. They're trying to get through that. It doesn't matter again where you come from. If you're not paying attention to the value of your time and not using it wisely, then it's easy to end up doing things that aren't good for us. So you guys you've built quite the career for yourself, Scott. You've made a lot of amazing visions come to reality. Clario, the Nourish Movement, projects beyond that. So I know the visionary leaders listening would benefit tremendously. What are 3 resources that have inspired you and helped you along your way to focus in on your vision and get things done?
Yeah. Well, it's a great question. So one that I would say from a resource perspective in terms of, books, you asked about books once before. And one of the ones that's always stood out to me is Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck. So if you're not familiar with her, she's a social psychologist and researcher from Stanford. The book's been around actually for a little while, but I think it's just timeless. She talks about having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. So how do we begin to not look at defining ourselves on the basis of outcomes, but defining ourselves on the basis of progress? And given some of the things that I've experienced in my own life, both personally and professionally, I kind of feel like progress is the measure of success. And so in that sense, it's how do we begin to learn, to build a learning mindset failing forward? So growth mindset is one that's definitely there. The Opposable Mind by Roger Martin is also one that I've really come to love in the design of business, because cool. we have complex challenges in this world that we have to deal with. And so dealing with seeming tensions, contradictions, and building more integrative thinking that can allow us to push past the polarization that's there and actually get to a synthesis of great ideas and thinking that brings people together. And I think that's actually part of the discipline of a leader, is learning how to think, not just what to think. And then recently I've been sort of inspired by the work of Jonathan Haidt over at NYU around affective polarization. So we live in a highly polarized, charged world, not just politically, of course, that's what he's written a lot about, but also in things like our food system and the relationship between food and healthcare. That's got to get fixed. And I think affective polarization is a force that's really keeping us apart. The fact that we tend to learn to disdain so much the other side on whatever issue it is, that we begin to become tribal in our way of thinking. And so we'll begin to believe just about anything so long as it paints the other side in a bad light. And so I think innovation and transformation is going to come from bringing people that are not alike. So diversity of thinking, diversity of perspectives around the common challenges and problems that we are all trying to solve. And that's really what we're trying to do through Nourish Movement.
Dude, that's amazing. Those are some serious value bombs. I haven't read either of those books, and I'm excited to on both of them. One, I love books that are timeless.
Yeah.
As a Man Thinketh, the Bible. Books that have stood the test of time are super valuable. The Moments of Truth. Yeah. Usually the older, the richer. Then there's The Opposable Mind. That reminds me of Mark Twain. And just like thinking outside the box and trying to understand opposition. And then you nailed something. I didn't. Is it Jonathan Haidt? Is that what you said?
Jonathan Haidt, yeah, Haidt from NYU. Terrific.
I definitely got to check that out, because the more we understand these subjects, the more I feel like we can make a difference of protecting ourselves, protecting our families from falling into these traps, and then of course leading as leaders in the world of others who maybe. Hey, I don't know. Maybe none of you guys listening in have friends that unfriend each other based on differences of opinions. Maybe all of your friends get along and don't argue about politics, but actually have wholesome conversations. But if that's not happening in your circles, then it's people like Jonathan and it's conversations like this that check ourselves.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You have a thought before we go to the break?
Sorry?
Do you have another thought before we go to the break?
Yeah, no. So real quick would be to say, and maybe we can pick up on this after the break. That dynamic is actually the very dynamic that keeps us polarized and apart as it relates to our food system and the transformation that we need, and bringing the food and health ecosystems together, which is what we're trying to solve
Yeah.
with Nourish Movement. So I look forward to double clicking on that when we get back.
It's huge, and you're all facing this as visionary
Yeah.
leaders. There's competition and fighting and dog eat dog
Mhm.
mentality in every single industry that's out there. And when you become the lion, the dog can't eat, meaning you're not there to just kill people. You're there to be like Simba's dad, and Simba, Mufasa. You're so strong, you don't have to attack the hyenas,
Yeah.
or fight back. Your strength just is, and the life cycle wins because. But I know I went super Disney for all of you on that. But point being, if you can become that type of leader in your industry, then not only do you become bulletproof, but you become the type of leader that then actually leads the industry and bridges the
Mhm.
gaps and harmonizes. So, Scott, thanks for planting that seed for me and for others. We'll be right back, and we'll dive into Scott's vision. All right. Welcome in to Vision Pros Live with Jackson Callum. I'm your show host. We will be doing interviews for visionary entrepreneurs and guest leaders who are building fantastic visions out there. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Vision Pros Live. I'm your show host, Jackson Callum, founder and CEO of First Class Business, and I'm super excited, really, to have Scott Bowman on stage. This is going to be like an intellectual conversation of the ages, and allow yourself to just embrace this reality, the opportunity to talk about what's going on with health and food and the collaboration that exists there, and know that as visionaries, not only are you learning something about what's going on in the world at large that's important and not talked about on mainstream, but this is also very much going to apply to you and your industry and the things that you can do to collaborate with others more effectively. I can't wait to talk to him about that. I guess I can wait. Before I do, I'm going to give you another couple of resources, but one that I'm hoping that I can connect Scott with, and that is James Bond, of all people, James I. Bond, of a book called Brain Glue. Jack Canfield literally said only an entrepreneur that's an idiot would not buy this book. Jack Canfield has sold over 100 million copies of Chicken Soup for the Soul. This book helps us understand as individuals how to really make our concepts sticky so that emotionally it stays in people's heart and mind, and we get out of the intellectual, we get into how to drive a movement. It's an absolutely brilliant concept, and James has been a lot of fun to work with. He's quirky, he's got years and years of wisdom, and for those of you who haven't checked out the book, as Jack Canfield said, I would definitely take a look at what he's up to. Then there's Hard to Kill with Dave Morrow. Dave Morrow is an award-winning podcaster in the military space. He's helping 100,000 veterans lose 2 million pounds collectively, and he's expanded the Hard to Kill community to also include civilians. I've been working on my health by working with him as well. Again, I bet him and Scott have some collaboration to do as well on that with their different initiatives. He's going to be at the Military Influencer Expo in Georgia here at the end of the month. If you happen to be in that area, go meet Dave. He's a super nice guy. And then the communities that he's running, one of them is free to join. And some of us, that's really all we need for motivation, to get healthy and to start doing things, is just be in an environment with others who are also looking to get healthy. And he's on a mission to help all these individuals look good, feel good, and then go do good. I've also found it's easier to do good when I feel good about myself. So join us over there. And then there's the Water Project. The Water Project is not something I'm associated with at all. I've given to it. By all means, I love the idea of continuing to give to it. I wish I could fund all these projects myself. When I found out that many people in the world do not have access to clean drinking water, something that I've never been thirsty in my life, like truly thirsty and without. I found out that these millions of people are, and I said, you know what, I don't want to forget about this. In fact, I want to talk about this more often because this is something that we could eradicate if we pull together. And granted, some of you may not have the finances to help. My hope is that by learning about this, you'll just share it with somebody who might be able to. You don't know if the person that you share the Water Project with will donate $10 million to this, or just $10 to it. No amount is too small in terms of helping people in this situation. There's a picture you're going to see on the screen. It reminds me of my kids on Christmas Day. And these kids are celebrating water and access to clean filtered water we have the ability to make that type of impact. And what's really cool is when you donate to one of these communities, the Water Project actually sends you an email letting you know that it got finished, and you get to see the community and how it's transformed and how they came together to make it happen. So I'm very grateful for what they're doing in the world. If you know of another cause that we should be supporting and getting involved in, then by all means, drop it in the comments as well. We got 8 billion people to help. And the better we come together to do that, the more effective we can be in making a difference for others. So without further ado, Scott's going to show us how he's doing the same thing and helping people bridge their gaps. And I couldn't be happier to have you on the episode, Scott. This is great. Thanks for being here.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Jackson. It was interesting. I did not know you were going to reference the how hard to kill book, but it made me think. We mentioned before the break, we were talking a little bit about the challenge that we face in human health and how it's the number one cause of mortality, morbidity, 85% of our healthcare costs. However, I'd also say that I think, if I got this right, another statistic I've seen is that 8 out of 10 people do not qualify for military service because they are obese and don't meet the requirements. And so, so this is actually a problem that affects that population too. And so, so really what we're looking to do, Jackson, is to help accelerate the future of health through nutrition and food, and to do that through better collaboration, better innovation, and through business design. And so we think there's actually possibility to solve that challenge in a bigger way by bringing together the health and food ecosystems. So the health and food ecosystems are disconnected. They have aligned incentives, legacy thinking, and business models, and they just don't effectively work together. And so what we're trying to do is build a community of passionate leaders committed to collaborative problem solving and accelerating partnering and innovation by coming together. And we think that works best by helping them find their tribe. So that's that connection to that integrative thinking and crossing borders and boundaries and bringing people together. So find their tribe, number one. Find challenges worth working on, and then bring together the aligned players that have a vested interest in solving them. And through collective action to help shorten the cycle time to partnering. So we think that innovation is driven by great challenges, and challenges that are rooted in private sector, market-oriented innovation. And so that's exactly what we're trying to do, is a community of passionate leaders that are committed to problem solving, a do tank instead of a think tank in that sense, and to help accelerate this movement of food as medicine, going from collaboration and innovation to individual organizations acting in their own ways. And right now, one of the big areas that we're focused on in the food as medicine movement is what we call food as medicine for an Ozempic world, or GLP-1 world. So happy to talk about that if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned this word tribe a couple times. I'm a big fan of this book, The Tribal Leadership. It's not commonly read. I probably had it in my in fact, I had it on my shelf for probably close to 10 years before I finally dove into it. It intimidated me. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for that. And those are usually the things we should dive into like right away. I'm glad I finally did, though. There's so much that we can learn about how to help others when we dive into concepts like that. And the real simple concept of it is what you said: collaboration. Right? We bring great leaders together, and we learn how to speak their languages and influence with them. It's amazing what is possible by leading that way. So, feel free to tell me about the initiative, either Nourish Movement, or the one you were just mentioning. I didn't catch what the name of it was. It might kind of cut out a little bit.
Yeah. So one of the areas that we're looking to step into is the role of food as medicine. Let me back up and explain what food as medicine.
Food as medicine.
Food as medicine, right? So food as medicine is all about the movement of people that are looking to impact human health outcomes through better and affordable nutrition, and the role that nutrition can play in their healthcare, right? So today, you get your healthcare. Healthcare in the United States is really more sick care, right? So it's not really healthcare. It's not really focused on wellness, on well-being, on prevention. It's really focused on sick care. And our food system, right, has been not necessarily designed for health either. We like to say that our food system was designed for cheap calories, mass-produced at scale, and delivered over distance. So how do we make better, more accessible, affordable food? And how do we integrate that food inside of healthcare programs to really help improve health outcomes? And that's really what the food as medicine movement represents. And so if your listeners read about it,
let me ask you this too. What type of platform? So let's say that we do contact Dr. Eric Berg, right, or Dave Morrow, who's talking about nutrition and health.
Sure.
We're constantly coming across these health advocates. Most of them, though, are not. They don't have 12 million subscribers like Dr. Eric Berg does. They've got a couple hundred, and they want to make a bigger difference, but they don't necessarily know the platforms and stages they should be talking on and where they should be getting involved. What are some of those communities or expos or platforms? Is the Nourish movement one of them they should be coming to? And talk to me about how they can get involved, because we need more leaders coming together, like you said. So where do they come together at?
Yeah, that's right. Well, so there are different kinds. There are not very many that are focused in the food as medicine space per se, but I'd say one of the ones I'd mention, a membership organization that I'd spotlight would be the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. Food as medicine fits into the bigger picture of lifestyle medicine, which is all about health, well-being in every sense of that. And the role of nutrition and food is integral to the idea of lifestyle medicine. And so the American College of Lifestyle Medicine is a great example of somebody that's doing a terrific job. But what, sorry?
Thank you. Yeah. So this is very helpful. That
Yeah.
helps me dig into the wells that exist in the world,
Yeah.
rather than just having the cup of water. So continue.
And then selfishly, I might say,
Please.
for there is a role that we're trying to play. So what we do is we like I said, we try to find challenges that are at that intersection where the health and food ecosystems have an aligned strategic interest, and help accelerate new innovation through collaboration, through partnering, and through collective ideation and problem solving together.
See, and I want to hit that because I
Yeah.
know it's so common in today's world to have to say selfishly, right? To have to make that, but no, that is, you're confident in what you have. I'm confident in what you have, but we need to know directly what that looks like in order to know how to take action. So, how do we get involved with the nourishment movement?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll give you an example of one area that we're focused on right now. And if there's any of your listeners that are interested, certainly they could reach out to me to hear more about this. But
Yep.
I'll give you one very specific area where I think there's an opportunity to make a massive impact in a relatively short period of time. And that's the whole world of GLP-1s, if you've heard of that, or Ozempic. Think of it as Ozempic, Wegovy. You don't have to just turn on the TV to for a few minutes to sort of see the impact there. So we think that they have come about as a result of a perfect storm, but they're an imperfect solution, and there's an opportunity to really create change through nutrition and food. So let me say why a perfect storm. They're a perfect storm because pharma companies have over the past 4 years grown their direct-to-consumer ad spend by 4 times. There's been a 100-fold increase in the spend from the U.S. government on those drugs. And they are about to be by 2030, $100 billion market, fueled by both funding as well as by the underlying issues that they're solving, rising diabetes as well as obesity. And 2 drugs in particular, Wegovy and Ozempic, are such a big deal that Novo Nordisk literally has moved and shifted the GDP of Denmark just through the aggressive growth of these 2 drugs. But why are they an imperfect solution, Jackson? They're imperfect because, well, first of all, they cost $10,000 per person per year.
I'm going to take you back a little bit, Scott. So
Yep, sure.
GLP-1 drugs, I have never in my life heard. I'm going to point out how ignorant I am right now on stage without a problem. So I don't watch TV either. So that's probably part of the reason you said just turn it on. I'm not going to turn it on. So what the heck is a GLP-1 drug for those of us who are completely ignorant still? And walk me through those basics and then hit what you're talking about.
Sure. So people will probably know the brand names of Ozempic or Wegovy, right? So Ozempic and Wegovy, which are produced by a company called Novo Nordisk, they are drugs that are meant to mimic the hormone, the GLP-1 hormone in the body to reduce satiety and to help address insulin response. They've been used for a few decades in the application of diabetes management. So diabetes care, when someone gets type 2 diabetes, oftentimes they'll go on a GLP-1 drug to help them manage their diabetes. But increasingly, they've been shown to have powerful effects on overall weight loss, right? So 10 to 15% weight loss nearly immediately. And so that has just fueled a firestorm of activity, right? So really, if you do just a quick Google search of GLP-1 or Ozempic or Wegovy, your users will see just a flurry of ads and of material. And like I said, every time you turn on the TV, you'll see an ad for them.
I get you. And I'm grateful for you. Thank you for breaking that down for me. I have been so blessed, one, to not have diabetes or anything like that. And I drink water and I eat, the right types of foods too. So I haven't had the same type of health risk. I don't take medicines.
Yep.
And so it is foreign for somebody like myself, but I'm sure a lot of you're welcome to laugh at me in the comments and be like, what the heck, does this guy live under a rock? But if this is news to you as well, it means that there's lots of other people in your circles that may benefit from understanding this. And I'm sure all the health buffs out there, you guys are all ready to jump in, and talk about this as well. So what can they do? Again, you said they can reach out to you. Is it they do that through LinkedIn, or do you have a preferred means for them to reach out?
Yeah, reach out through LinkedIn, because we are right. So happy to respond to anyone who's interested in knowing more or getting engaged in this movement. But so what we're doing is really trying to bring together health and food innovators to solve the challenges that can help us address the underlying issues that these drugs are trying to address, but to do that with the addition of nutrition and food that's connected to their health, either for those that are looking to not go on the drugs in the first place, or if they're on the drugs to reduce the side effects when they're on them, or to have a pathway toward more sustainable diets over the longer term that allow them to get off of them. And there's a good reason. Yeah, there's good reasons why that's needed. Because number one, they're costly, $10,000 to $12,000 a year. Number two, 10 to 15% of people that are on them are non-responders anyway. Number three, when people go on them, they experience all kinds of side effects, from muscle loss, muscle wasting, nutritional deficits, dehydration, gastrointestinal issues. Some experience IBS type symptoms. And then when they go off of them, there's 2/3 of the weight is regained within the first year. So there's really no ROI ultimately from using these drugs. They're powerful drugs. They give an incredible near-term result, but they're really unsustainable from a consumer perspective over the long term, and also from a healthcare perspective over the longer term. Given the costs that we spend on them today, if we were to put everybody who would qualify on them, which is people that are classically considered obese. If we put everyone on them today that would qualify for them, the amount of spend would be equal to the entire spend that we had on all of prescription drugs in 2022. And that number is going to grow to nearly $1 trillion by 2031. So really these drugs, while they're powerful and have incredible use cases, they are, I think, igniting a desire to say, maybe there's a better way forward. Maybe there's an opportunity to intervene through nutrition, through food, through lifestyle, in addition to really help ultimately get what we're trying to achieve anyway, which is better and more sustainable outcomes over time.
That's fantastic. So I've got a number of people in mind that I want to send your way. I'm that guy who doesn't really understand everything, but when I see something, I'm like, man, this needs attention. And I know some people who could probably help with this. I like to try to see if I can connect the two superstars who can figure it out. Adam Tank, for instance, he's a water expert, global water expert. He happened to be my best friend in kindergarten. And he's done some amazing work worldwide with water safety and water purification, all things water. Another one is Dr. Seth Yates, a naturopath out of Canada. Works with me on a project called ablehealth.us. They're the type of people who speak your language. Yeah. Are they the type of people that you are wanting to connect with? And I mean, what would a collaboration with Adam look like?
Yeah. So no, I'd love to connect with them. And with Seth. And so I'll give an example. So we've got an innovation session that we're leading in just about a month in Boston. And the whole goal of that innovation session is to bring players that have aligned business and strategic interest in solving this challenge around nutrition and food as medicine approaches for the GLP-1 use cases, right? So, and our whole goal is to help accelerate creative partnering. And we're going to do that by bringing together food companies, ingredient companies, healthcare organizations like Kaiser, Mayo Clinic, others, food as medicine solution providers, technology firms that have the ability to really affect change. And so we see there's a real near-term opportunity to bring folks like that in to help accelerate creative partnering in ways that we help them achieve their mission and vision, but we also figure out where our missions intersect to help solve the bigger challenges.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you. I will.
Yeah.
I've got about 100 connections. That I'm serious. That's about the list that I will be happy to send and forward that information to, because these are the types of problems that we need to take action on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
These are the types of realizations. Like those people matter a lot to me because they're tackling problems I don't understand. Right? Without Adam, I'm not making any impact on water in the world, other than drinking it. And getting rid of it. Like I need to do something. And so Adam's like my water superhero or Captain Planet. So thank you for diving into that. I'm going to switch gears. So let's go more towards that visionary leader side of things. So for visionary leaders who are out there, we all benefit from understanding, from learning from the history of others. What is the worst leadership experience, Scott, that you've ever had?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think if I were to articulate it, I would say I cut my teeth in the early days right after my MBA in Silicon Valley. And having worked in Silicon Valley for many years, I think there's a lot of things that I had to unlearn, right? And so if you or your listeners have ever watched the show Silicon Valley, I would have to say I don't necessarily recommend the show, but I will say it's not far off from the reality that at least I lived in the late 90s, early 2000s in Silicon Valley. And so many of the experiences that I had out there were really kind of the antithesis of what I think it takes to be a great leader. And there were a lot of things that I had to unlearn. I learned out there, it felt like people are looked at as expendable tools. Hubris is celebrated, toxicity is tolerated, and shareholder value is the ultimate measure of success. And I think that real leadership requires humility. It requires teachability, having a learning mindset. It requires respect and dignity and empathy for others, and ultimately requires having a heart of service for other people and for the world. And not just shareholder value, but stakeholder value. So I think there's something to this idea of stakeholder capitalism, stakeholder value creation. And so for me, I think the Silicon Valley was a great place to learn, to grow, to experience some powerful things, but it also was a place that I think had some toxic side effects.
Peter Drucker in The Effective Executive says, people with tremendous strengths always come with tremendous weaknesses.
Yeah.
Right. So I appreciate exactly what you're saying. In fact, shout out to Eric Grafstrom of Exit Guide, who lives in Austin now. He came on the show and he talked about living in Menlo Park and how, when you live in that bubble, there's a certain amount of trauma I see in y'all's eyes when you talk about it. Right. You could say the same thing of anybody who grew up in the Catholic faith. Anybody grew up in the LDS faith, anybody who grew up in India and elsewhere, like once you've experienced more to life, you can begin to recognize like, whoa, I built some great strengths here, but I developed some bad weaknesses too. I love that you talk about humility. I think it's one of the greatest strengths that is super overlooked. Same thing with people who are delicate.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many flowers survive the hurricanes. And we sometimes think that those are negative attributes, but in reality, they're fantastic virtues. So all of us can learn from that by saying, all right, what in my community have I picked up that is good?
That's right.
And what have I picked up that is bad? And how do I get myself involved in diverse communities so I can balance myself out a bit better? So that's a neat one.
Yeah.
What about on the opposite side? What's the best leadership experience you've ever had?
My dad was someone that I looked up to and admired. My dad passed in 2020. But to me, he was the polar opposite and the antithesis of everything that I just described about Silicon Valley. And I would say, especially in the latter years of his life, when he founded an NGO, I worked with him to help him get it started, get it off the ground. But an NGO that built a hospital and a network of clinics in South Sudan. So actually, it would be interesting to connect to your the water project, because clearly clean water over there is a huge problem.
Please do.
And so we have definitely have lots of needs for that, because that organization still operates. So he had a credo that for him came from an old gospel hymn. He was a man of faith, and his credo was, "Others, Lord, yes, others, let this my motto be. Others, you, Lord, yes, others, that I might live like thee." And so when I look at his life, what he did, he was someone who set an audacious goal. He rallied people to the mission, and ultimately continuing to do that. And for him, it was all about health and healing for people in South Sudan. And he maintained a relentless commitment in service of others. And so it was a kind of, in a sense, that stark contrast between sort of what I learned in Silicon Valley and the experience that I had working with him and empowering him, and seeing that he was a man of great strength, but his strength came from a different place. And so, and actually, it relates to a sort of a core belief that I have, which is the heart of leadership is really service to others. Yeah. And that's really what I try to embed in the work that I do with Clario and with the Nourish movement. Another thing it could sort of be worth just mentioning is I think people don't talk enough about mission. What's the mission? What's the purpose that drives you and guides you and animates you every single day? And I think the mission fundamentally of innovation, of innovative leaders, is to improve the health and prosperity of the world. The mission of innovation is to improve the health and the prosperity of the world. And so the degree to which we can embody that, and the degree to which we can approach leadership from a heart of service, from a heart of respect, from a heart of giving, I think the better off the world will be, and the better off we will be as a result.
I'm going to have to blame you for my ink running out on my pen soon, because you give so much value, Scott, in subtle ways that I don't normally write this many notes during these sessions and find this many quips, but it speaks to the testament of just how hard you've worked on this. Vulnerably opening up again. We love to pretend we know everything as entrepreneurs, especially as hosts of a show. But no, like, it's been hard for me to define mission. Right. What's the difference between vision and mission? And you just articulated it so well. And it's something that I usually correlate with what I call the rally cry. Mm-hmm. And they do go hand in hand to an extent. But I hadn't thought of it in the way that you just mentioned it. And that's going to be very helpful for those that we teach and strive to help, because we can get, people lose their visions, but we on our side kind of get caught up in the vision because, well, it's just a natural byproduct of having vision pros. But we have to get to where the mission is something that you focus on a daily basis. What is it that you're doing? How is it that you're participating? So thank you for the nugget of wisdom there.
Yeah, Jackson, the mission, if I may interrupt, just to say that the mission is the thing that ought to really guide us. It ought to animate us. It ought to sort of focus us, because it is the core purpose, right? It's in a sense that it's that why that Simon Sinek talks about so much, right? People don't care what you do until they care why you do it, right? And so it's the why that animates the very, purpose that guides what we do. And then sort of we like to think of the mission, the vision is really, what is that aspirational future to which we all aspire? And so that becomes the compass. The mission is what guides us, and the vision is the compass that leads us to.
It wasn't until we applied the mission as a rally cry where we started to feel the difference and the change in tides for first class business and for our program called Opportunities. So Opportunities, we've always been clear on that rally cry, and our rally cry or vision or mission, rally cry or mission for that is to bridge the economic gap between North America, South America, and rest of world. Right, that's what we're doing there. And the Latinos and the developing countries that hear that, or people that empathize with that, they love it and they gravitate. But first class business is a different rally cry, and that's to create a full appreciation for personal and family well-being in the workplace. So that aspect of caring about the workplace and the workplace environment as I started to shift and talk to people about that, I noticed more of the entrepreneurs in America began to really feel like, oh, that I want my well-being to be cared about. I want my team's well-being to be cared about. So
That's right.
there is a dynamic pull that happens when we take the time to think through and define those. You also remind me of another leader that I don't know if he talks about. I think he talked about Silicon Valley in the book. This poster behind me is from the pyramid chart of 5 dysfunctions of a team
Oh,
by
right.
Patrick Lencioni.
Yeah.
And again, you can be a successful leader by force.
You can.
And if you want to feel bad in life, you want to feel darkness and secluded, then by all means use force as the means of leadership. But I thought that book was masterfully written. Between that and the 5 Temptations of a CEO that he wrote, both excellent examples of highlighting that turmoil that exists within Silicon Valley and corporate environments where people are more concerned with prestige than they are with the actual character of true leadership, which is strength. You don't need to show force. When you actually have strength on your side, strength does typically win out. So again, great principles to dive into. The last, go ahead. You want one more?
No, I was
One
just
more
gonna,
thought
I
before
was
we
just
go
gonna
to the next
say,
one?
yeah, I was just gonna say, I think it's just it's a pivot in the mindset of the leader, right? Which is,
Yeah.
right. So I think I have a belief that everything that I have is something that I've been given. And so if that's the case, then ultimately I have a stewardship responsibility to use those gifts, those talents, those abilities to, as I said before, sort of to improve the health and prosperity of the world. And so how do I do that in the context of my business? How do I look at other people and the mission that I'm trying to drive, whether it's at Nourish Movement, where we're looking to connect innovators and their innovations to empower human health through cross-sector collaboration with health and food, or whether it's working with large companies and small, fast-moving companies in the food ecosystem, up and down the food value chain, to help transform themselves in new ways and grow in ways to realize their place in the world in achieving human health through better and affordable, nutritious food.
My favorite part about interviewing you is you dig deeper and deeper into the well. Right. It's just constant. And so it makes it really fun for this question because it continues to build the pressure and the momentum. So if this were the last chance that you had to share wisdom with the world, what powerful lesson can other visionaries learn from your experience?
Yeah, no, it's thank you for that. This is I think I would end with I think I would go back to that point that the mission of innovation is to improve the health and prosperity of the world. And I think the more you can sort of embed that mindset and that thinking, the better off you will be. Now, the difficulty as a leader is how do you inject outside in thinking? How do you break conventional thinking and assumptions? How do you sort of begin to have that sort of that learning mindset? And that's where the struggle really comes, because most leaders, most organizations get stuck in embedded ways of doing things. We like to say that the paradox of innovation and the paradox of a leader is that becoming the best at what you do, which is, of course, what is demanded of any of us, is actually the very thing that keeps you from being able to see and anticipate what's next, right? Why is that? It's because you get so focused on your customers, on your problems that you're trying to solve, on your markets, your products, that you begin to lose that sort of peripheral vision. And so how do you begin to sort of step out of that and think differently about your opportunity by casting a vision of that future state that you're looking to get to, and then organizing and resourcing and delivering on on that sort of next generation more innovative approaches, and having that learning mindset that we talked about.
Absolutely. I'm going to pull it up. I think I got it right here. The mission of innovation itself. Innovation is to improve the health and well-being of the world. I got that right. Right. Did I type that correctly?
You did.
I want to make sure I did before I started to comment on it, because I want to buy into this concept pretty fully. I can see this. Like if we're, in other words, if we're creating something and it's not providing an improvement for others, what are we doing? Why are we spending our time on it? Versus on the flip side, if we change our focus to creating things, coming up with new ideas, developing things for the world, whether it is, I guess you'd say, truly innovative, whether it's something that's original, right? Or it's something, or it's Firestone and Michelin, right? They've kind of reinvented the wheel, so to speak. It's the same wheel that existed in stone format and in wooden format, but they've improved it to a way where we've got so much better transportation capacity at this point. We all have the opportunity to innovate.
That's right.
And the underlying question is what we're focusing on truly helping others or not? And I believe that's also one of the keys to happiness and peace, is focus your life on that. What are your
You're
thoughts?
right. You're right. And in that sense, innovation is not about creating things necessarily. It's about creating value. It's about creating value, and it's about creating value for stakeholders, right? So you mentioned products, and this product that I hold in my hand, my iPhone 15, Apple invented very, very little of what's actually in here. I mean, increasingly more and more, but initially it was really about solving a problem, which is a customer experience problem. And so there are lots and lots of examples of innovation, whether it's customer experience innovation, whether it's product innovation, whether it's innovating through partnerships, where we can create value for our stakeholders in new ways. And our job as leaders is to get out of sort of one way of looking at things, and by just boxing ourselves in by our existing products and existing customers and existing markets, and looking at new ways to construct and create value. And I would assert that the goal of that ultimately needs to be in service of improving the health and prosperity of the world in some way.
I love that you drew the correlation to away from the inventor mindset, or just focused on the physical objects. I get to participate in a conference, and at the conference there was a youth program. It's called Habitu Warrior Conference, and it was fun to see the speakers come in and influence the youth, and see them all try to connect with these youth in different ways. And some of them were pitiful, and some of them were quite good at it. But the one who I would say made the most impactful impact was Sharon Lechter, the ghostwriter for Rich Dad Poor Dad. And she came in and she focused on teaching these kids how to shake her hand, how to look her in the eye, how to take a firm grasp, how to have confidence and boldness in it. She knew so well how to meet those children where they were at and on what they needed, and to build their self-confidence up. It was the coolest. It was the coolest thing because it was the most simple of innovations. And I will fully use that word. That is a very innovative reality. And sometimes we as human beings, we downplay the value of the simple things that we can do to cause great impact in the world. And we shouldn't. We should embrace those types of opportunities. So, Scott, this was incredibly inspiring. I appreciate you coming on the show today. Vision Pros, we're going to have below this episode, we'll have the action steps of how you can get engaged with Scott, how you can check out the Nourish movement, Clario, what's going on in the world of food and collaboration. We'll also have the resources listed below that, so you can go and check out what things we talked about. If you're just joining in the last minute, we'll have that list on that landing page. And lastly, we'll have a button in the top right corner, and the button says Be Our Guest. If you've got a guess of how to help in this world, don't hesitate to come and share it. It can be as small as something going on in your family or your neighborhood. As long as it's helping others, we'd love to have you here. And it could also be something worldwide in a movement like Scott's created. This was phenomenal. Scott, I'll let you close us out today.
Jackson, thank you so much. Appreciate your time and appreciate your listeners' time. Let's go be the change that we want to see in the world.
Let's do it. Appreciate you for letting me put you on the spot and just dig super deep into your well. We hope to have you back in the future.
Hope so.
Good to see you. Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an